when you look at your finances and your investments, that's kind of the lowest form of wealth that you have. Relationships, wisdom, giving back, helping others. Those are forms of wealth that are much higher than the finances. We want to come alongside for our clients and help them grow those finances to be able to help support those more meaningful levels of wealth. But what I've noticed is that for clients that focus just on the dollars and cents of what they have, they're less happy.
We are here with the What Gives podcast at Harvest Financial Advisors. And I have the pleasure of having Marc Henn, the CEO and founder of Harvest Financial Advisors, with us today. Welcome to the What Gives podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have to tell the story of how we first met.
Sure.
So Harvest Financial Advisors was down the street in Westchester, Ohio. And the foundation was looking for a new home.
And we were looking for a place, a company or somebody to sell our place to, but we wanted to be very purposeful, I guess, in that as well.
And we honestly are so grateful that you were purposeful, that you let the foundation buy your old home. We're in your really new, amazing space here at Harvest Financial Advisors, just down the street.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thanks.
And thank you for your tremendous gift.
You're welcome.
We love our home. It's got lots of character, and we just really appreciate you for that.
I would tell you, it was tough to move from there.
I'm sure.
But when you have, multiple of your team members like working on top of each other,
Right.
it's like you need some new office space.
Yes, I don't know how you did it, but yeah, absolutely magnificent. So let's talk. I want to tell your story. And how did you get your start? How did this all come about? You've grown the business. It's amazing. And I want to hear that story from you.
So I can go all the way back to my high school days. As a junior in high school, we had this class. I think everybody should have the opportunity to take something like this. It was called personal finance. And I haven't found any other high school to offer this. So we did many things. Like we actually learned how to buy a car, and we actually had to go out and go through the process of buying a car, things like that. Very purposeful.
Right.
When it came to stock investments, we actually had someone come in and talk about fundamental analysis. We had somebody come in and talk about technical.
Are you kidding me? Where did you go to high school?
Little Mount Vernon High School in Southwest Indiana, Mount Vernon High School.
Unbelievable.
It was the best class I ever had in high school and college. But one of the things we were able to do then is if we wanted to buy a stock, the class had to choose somebody's stock that they found, and they chose my stock that I wanted to purchase. I remember it to this day. It was Valero Energy. I wanted to.
No, are you kidding me?
With my vast analysis, it was around September, and I thought, well, it's going to get cold. People need energy, right? Like it never gets cold in the wintertime, right? And so the class chose my stock. We bought it. I actually put in $10. 3 months later, it wound up being the number one performing stock in the stock market. I got back $14.50, a 45% return, and I was hooked. I'm like, this is phenomenal.
Yes.
And so then
I would have been hooked too.
Oh, it was amazing. And so I went on to college. I went to Purdue. I got a degree in economics from there, and
no big deal.
No, well, it was like any good Purdue person. I started out in engineering.
Right.
And I went into the aerospace school, and I thought, I do not like this.
Yeah.
And I remembered how much I enjoyed economics in that class, so then I made that change. And even in college, AT&T had this collegiate investment challenge nationwide, and I finished in the top 50. I have a sweatshirt I got from that is coveted by one of my daughters who has it now. But then that kind of led me on my path to the industry that I'm in right now. I just enjoyed that, loved that. Didn't know what was out there.
Yeah.
And then left there, got into the industry.
Right.
Went into we call it the fee-only side of the world. And
did you do that right away?
I didn't. I went to Charles Schwab and Company at first and worked for them for a few years.
Yeah.
Got my certified financial planner's license through them, and really just enjoyed the idea of being able to provide a holistic approach to things. And so at that time, Schwab and Fidelity and things like that just can't provide that whole holistic type process. And I worked for some great firms at the beginning, and as I moved into that fee-only side of the world, but there was still just kind of something missing from that I thought
Right.
that we could be provided. So that ultimately led me to start Harvest Financial then at the beginning of 2008. My
Right.
goal was
What a great time for you to do that, by the way.
know-
Honestly, how was starting a business in 2008?
You know-
I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
Yeah, it was.
You timed it perfectly.
That's right. So we actually had two things. One, nobody enjoys going through a time like that.
No.
If you have that discipline, though, it does present some opportunities,
Sure.
which it did as well. We had kind of had moved away from financial stocks, and we had a lot of treasuries as we were going through it.
Really?
That really benefited the portfolios. And as we came out the other side, usually what happens in a period like that is that firms like ours typically pick up a lot of clients because if there's one, I guess, black mark on the financial services industry, it's customer service.
Sure.
So you have these.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you have these banks and brokerage firms that representatives have 1,000 clients, and there's just no way to take care of all of them.
Right.
So they start reaching out to find somebody else because their phone calls aren't returned. It's a week or two later, and so that leads typically to picking up new clients, which we did, and that helped grow the firm. So with that discipline through that period of time, that brought us out, and we actually were stronger on the other side with more clients coming in. I'm not saying it wasn't
Right.
tumultuous.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
sure. And how old were your kids at that time? Because how many children do you have?
So I have 5 daughters.
That's right.
Two sons-in-law.
Okay.
And a granddaughter. So
Okay.
we're enjoying that.
Big family.
Yeah. So I guess 16 years ago, my oldest would have been, I guess, 11.
Oh my goodness.
And my youngest would have been 7, 6.
So your wife is a saint, is what we're hearing.
She's phenomenal. I
Yes.
mean, I've always said that her job is the toughest job in the world.
It is.
So
It is.
she did that. We actually homeschooled our kids also.
Amazing. Yes.
And loved that as
Yes.
well. Except I will say there was a time that my daughter was taking physics. I'm happy to help her with that because I had plenty of classes in that.
Right.
But I didn't have the answer book. I couldn't find an answer book. So when I
Yeah.
asked these questions, I'm like, if I could see the answer, I can work back. And it was
Right.
that semester was rough, I have to tell you.
I believe that. I believe
So,
that.
yeah. I felt comfortable with the investment side, with the planning side. I wanted to be able to have a firm where we could take people from the wealth management into the family office type world and help them transition as well. There's not very many firms in this country that even can do that.
Right.
So I think we were there were some circumstances that allowed us to set up for that, to be able to
Sure.
bring that out. And every time I add a new team member, every time we have another 25 million in assets, this is the first time I have that. So I do have coaches that I go to from a business standpoint to help me with that as well, because it's the first time I've ever had a business that had 520 million and
Right.
13 team members. So I definitely take the coaching advice in terms of running the business, how to run it.
Yes.
Try to.
We did talk
yeah.
about this. We talked
Yeah.
about this. And now I can't think of the name, the 10X.
It was Strategic Coach, Dan
Yes,
Sullivan.
Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
I've read, what is it? What is his book now?
He has a ton of books out
Does
there.
he?
But,
Okay.
But 10X is easier than 2X.
Yes, that one. And then, the
Who Not How.
Who Not How. That book is life-changing.
It was a huge change for me as well. And in fact, so basically the premise of the book is to say, when you need to do something, if it's not within your unique ability,
Right.
which is those things that you're very good at and give you energy, then instead of figuring out how to do it, you find a who that can do it, that maybe
Right.
it's their unique ability and they love to do it and they get energy out of it. And so that was a huge life-changing thing for me. And
100%.
But I have to tell you, my wife does use that on me as well.
As she should, yes.
When I have to do something, it's kind of like, is that a who, not how? It's kind of like,
Yes.
because it's our time. It's our time now instead of
Right.
you running off to do
I
something.
love that.
So,
I love that she's also adopted. I think
Yes.
it works in all economies, right?
Yeah.
Of whether you work in the household or out of the household.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the household, my joke, and I still haven't done it though, is a laundry service because
you mentioned that. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
Oh, it's just so painful. So eventually I'll find a who to do the laundry.
I think even going through the mail, it's kind of it's like it piles up and everything.
Yes, yeah, all those sorting and filing paperwork. Yeah, everybody needs a who for those duties.
But I will say the 10x approach as well is that when you grow, so the firm has grown 10 times, and now we're on a path to grow another 10 times. But it has to be completely different than the last time we grew 10x. We could grow it.
Really?
Sure. We could grow. Yeah, we could grow it 2 times.
Right.
Just keep doing what we're doing.
Right.
And we will grow 2 times, and that will be fine.
Right.
But to grow another 10 times, we have to kind of totally change our viewpoint in terms of how we grow the firm, what we do, where we put our attention, where we put our focus, and it has to be something much, I'll say bigger, but it has to be a change. It forces you to change in terms of how you do your business.
Right.
Ultimately, we want it to be better on the other side as well. So how do you automate? How do you get other people to come alongside you in connections and collaborations, kind of like we have with Northern Cincinnati Foundation.
Yeah.
So it's those things are imperative, I think, to be able to grow 10 times. How do we come alongside each other and we help you grow? We help, we grow. Other people that we may be in connection with, they grow as well. So, and that ultimately helps the client in the end game because they get better service, better everything, and the firm grows as well. And so those are the things that we've been working on as well. So I kind of introduced our 10x growth strategy,
That's amazing.
Probably about 9 months ago to the firm. And so we've challenging all the team members as well. And so we've seen a lot of changes even from them in terms of what they see are our 10x strategies.
I'm sure. And I think that listening, I've listened on Audible to those books and those strategies, and they are really motivating. Dan Sullivan, Ben Hardy that are putting those together, very motivating when you listen to them and you really take a moment, think how you could execute things maybe more efficiently. So we were talking partnerships.
Yes.
And I want to talk Harvest and Northern Cincinnati Foundation. Obviously, we met. You had this amazing space. Right. We were hoping, obviously, as the foundation to land that space. You generously let us, purchase that. Out of all the people I've heard so many times, by the way, man, I really wanted that building from people. So I'm so glad that we developed this partnership. You were strategic about picking our philanthropic cause, doing good within the community. And it's really, we have this great working relationship now where you are one of our top custodians at the foundation. So you're actively working with our donors. Some of our donors are your clients. Yes. And so we're really excited about this relationship. And I actually have to give you a huge kudos to the listeners because so many people tend to not fully understand the philanthropic picture. And you 100% get it. And, I wish there were more Marc Henns out there in the world that really did get that philanthropic planning aspect. So how did that come to be? Like your knowledge, your community involvement, because you chose us, now we're partnering and we're both growing together, which is awesome.
It is funny. I do remember now that you brought that up.
Yes.
Is that before we even announced that we were selling the building, I probably had 15 people call me wanting to purchase the building.
Right.
So I'm keeping this tally run of all the people that wanted to buy that. And then when you all reached out to me, I thought this is the fit. This is where we want to do. We want to be able to have that partnership there. I loved how the Northern Cincinnati Foundation was giving back to the community as well. And so all that just kind of works together. And you're right. I mean, the idea of having that philanthropic heart, what the people that get it, right? I mean, it's when you give, you actually get back as well.
So
you get to see how those assets help others, especially in the family office world. One of the things that I won't say struggle with, but one of the things that people are concerned about, I should say that, if you have a family that has significant wealth, then they want to bring their children alongside. What they want to do is they want the children to be involved. They want them to grow up and have their own careers as well.
Right.
But they don't want the money that's in the family to kind of mess them up, right?
Yeah.
And so there's an old saying that, the first generation builds it, the second generation grows it, and the third generation blows it.
Right. That's kind of rings true, not all the time, right? You meet those one-offs, but it kind of does ring true.
And one of the things that we advocate for is getting the children involved in a philanthropic goal for the family where they can be involved in the giving of that. And the real point of that is so they can see the impact that those finances can have in helping other people in the community for whatever cause they want to assist with.
Right.
And it's a powerful way for them now to start understanding it. And that helps solidify the family goal and mission and to help kind of upend that potential third generation blowing the money type situation.
Right.
And I love how the Northern Cincinnati Foundation can come along and make it, one, so easy for people to do that.
Right.
And two, you all are so very easy to work with as well. You've been so gracious, always there when we have questions. You're there to answer them as well. Even for some of our clients that have come and are using the Northern Cincinnati Foundation, it's been a great transition for them as well. So I love that partnership, and especially, again, for those clients that understand that taxes are kind of the biggest expense that we face as we do our investing for our clients.
Right.
The Northern Cincinnati Foundation is kind of a key, I think, component to helping with that tax strategy as well. For the
100%.
So we can kind of tailor that in to a kind of a unique, we try to hopefully structure everything for our clients as being unique and specifically for them, we can kind of structure that giving then to the Northern Cincinnati Foundation as part of their tax planning strategies as well.
Right. No, I find that you kind of hit on educating and bringing that next generation along. And I do really find that is so important that with philanthropy, it's almost like the skill you need to learn while growing up. Right. Somehow, like mom volunteered at the church bingo and the festival, right?
That's right.
But giving back in some way. And so maybe then the next generation does a little better. And then now they're giving a little bit more directly to the church and their alma mater. And then the next generation maybe has a donor advised fund or a private foundation. And so it's all educating and bringing along, like you said. And we work with donors and then their children and having a family planning meeting on, okay, we want you guys to learn about these causes they're giving toward. What are your causes that you're passionate about? And then how can we structure this? Where you guys are really excited about giving back. But I will say in my 10 years running the foundation, I have found that people really need to learn philanthropy at some level, whatever that entry level is, to be inspired to give back.
And I think even from a simple giving strategy, I mean, people people know they want to give.
Right.
I don't think it usually starts out with like, oh, tax savings? Oh yeah, let's give money. No, it's usually the other way. It's I want to give, and they don't even recognize simple gifting strategies such as, oh, I could gift appreciated stock.
Right.
Or I can
Great strategy.
Qualified charitable deductions out of my IRA if I'm taking required minimum distributions. They don't know these strategies are out there to save taxes as well. And then, of course, that's what I love. That's what I love being able to do is bring those strategies for these clients. And when they don't even realize that they're there, being able to bring them alongside and say, well, look, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And just almost sometimes seeing their eyes pop open like, I can save this much and still give. I'm like, yes, you have the ability to do that. And then to have even something more like the Northern Cincinnati Foundation come along and be able to put together a little bit more complex strategy, but you take care of all the complexities. That makes it so great.
No, it does. It definitely does. Yeah. So I read a study the other day that happiness, being a happy person is correlated to doing good, like feel like you're having an impact, right? So maybe that's why you and I are so happy, Marc, is that we feel like we're making an impact, right? You're helping individuals, families, business owners, and we're doing the same with their philanthropy and we're partnering together. But that made me really, it was an interesting read. But that made a lot of sense to me, right? Doing good. It's not so always at the end of the day how much money you've made. It's how are you helping someone or how are you doing good in your community? So tell me about, this is something I ask every business owner, every CEO ever that we've had on since the inception of the What Gives podcast.
Okay.
So the world is ending.
Okay.
And you have a bug out bag you can bring.
Okay.
What's in your bug out bag? It can't be something trite like my family. Okay, your family's coming, right? They're going to be with you. But what's in your actual bug out bag? I need to know, Marc. What's in there?
Wow. So for my actual bug out bag, I already have, which I don't. Well, that's a great question.
We've had, I'll give you some time to think as I tell you, we've had answers like bow and arrows. We've had answers like bottles of wine from the Oregon region. So we've had like funny like book and wine answers. We've had bow and arrow and, two rocks kind of answers. So
I'll tell you a couple. I would have my plasma lighter, right? So you can just recharge that. That would be helpful. But I think that one of the more important things would be, we were talking about this earlier, our love for tea.
Oh my gosh, this tea I'm drinking is amazing.
I drink this spicy masala chai tea. And so I'd have to have a couple of bags of that, I think, with me. A mug and a way to heat up water. So that probably would be in my bug out bag. A little bit of honey too.
Yeah, so. Honestly, I'm drinking this tea now that Marc gave me, and wow. So I would definitely bring that too in a bug out
I think
bag.
that would have that in there. Now, would my wife bring that? No, she wouldn't. But I would sneak it in. I would sneak it in the bag. I'd find a way to put it in the bag.
You would add it in the bag, yeah.
So a bow and arrow, I could see bringing a bow and arrow too if I owned one. But
Yeah, it's smart. It just depends on what, people are very interesting with their answers, and it's been a kind of a joy to learn where everyone stands on that scenario.
I love honey too, and it's just I love it a little too much.
Yes.
So I'd probably find some kind of 25-pound container of honey to bring along as well.
Costco. I mean, Costco is great for the most ridiculous bottle of honey you've ever seen. So then I always ask as well, how do you start your day? Like how does your day begin, Marc, for you? Typically, business day.
So it depends if it's the summertime or it's the winter time.
Okay.
So we'll talk about summertime since that's going on now.
Yeah.
So one of my passions, and that's kind of a respite for me as well, is my garden. Ooh. And so I usually get up in the morning and I will work in the garden somewhat before I work out. Obviously clean up, come into the office, make a little bit of breakfast here as well, and the spicy masala chai.
Yeah.
The aforementioned chai. And then start my day that way. I do like getting up early. I kind of like an early riser. I could go to bed at 1 a.m., but if the sun's coming up, I still get up.
That's almost a curse, if you're going to bed at 1 a.m. and you still get up at like 5 or 5:30.
I do.
Yes.
So I've learned to embrace it. It's like, okay, if I'm going to get up, I could be like, oh, why can't I go back to sleep?
Right.
Or I can say, all right, what's there for me in this day, and I'm going to go kind of embrace the day. And that's
great.
I used to, even during the winter time, I used to say to myself when it was like 5 below outside, I'm like, I can't wait for it to get to be springtime. And then I thought, well, wait. One time I thought, well, wait a second, I'm going to lose 90 days here of just wishing it was springtime. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to embrace the -5 and enjoy the day as it is. So, but. In the garden, I always try to plant something new every year that I haven't planted before.
So what did you plant?
So, a couple of years ago, it was a fig tree.
Oh my gosh, how is that?
It's doing great. It's going very well.
I have no idea. So is it like what you buy at the grocery, like the?
It is. Now this one
seeds?
is a little more cold hardy.
Okay.
And the figs are a little smaller.
Okay.
Than what you get at the store, but they're delicious. Yeah.
Yes, I buy those California, figs, and my kids would love that.
Oh, it's great.
So what else is flourishing? Like what other green thumb activity is flourishing?
Last year I planted ginger for the first time.
Oh.
Now that's a tropical plant,
love ginger.
You don't get the full growing season out of it. But I planted it in an area that we have really good soil.
Yes.
And I planted probably 5 or 6 pieces, and it's almost kind of like a treasure hunt.
So sushi, for example.
Sure.
See, because I've never grown any of these things.
Right.
If I'm having ginger on the side, do they have to steam that, I guess, from how it's...
That's pickled.
Okay, thank you.
That's a pickled ginger.
See, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is fascinating to me.
But when you dig up, I mean, when I went to dig up the ginger, it was like I said, a treasure hunt.
Oh my gosh!
I dug up like 16 pounds of ginger because the soil was just so perfect for this.
Sounds amazing.
It was great. And ginger, when it's grown, when you pull it up, it's got a lot of red on it.
Yes.
Which is why redheads are called gingers.
Oh my gosh.
So when you see it in the store, it's all brown, right? When you see it in the store.
Yes.
But when it's fresh, it's mainly red on the outside.
Oh my goodness.
So then, I've sliced it, I dried it, I still have some left. Oh, it was the best ginger I ever had. It was phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
This year,
I'm jealous.
I planted some more, but I also planted turmeric. I'm going to see if I can grow that as well. That's also a tropical. It's a rhizome, so it doesn't.
I always call it turmeric, so it's turmeric. I'm wrong.
I call it turmeric.
You
could be right.
You're right. You have an economics background, so.
So around the garden, I have apple trees, nectarine trees. I have
oh my goodness,
strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries.
So that's so great. Your family must love this.
Well, the granddaughter loves it.
Oh, the granddaughter has to love it.
So if they're over at the house and I have the other 4 daughters that are there as well then all the other aunts get all this, give all this attention to the granddaughter and granddad is kind of like, set to the side. But when I say, I'm going to go out and pick some raspberries, guess who the granddaughter wants to go with?
She wants to go with
That's
you.
right. So I have that in my back pocket. I pull out.
Yes, and then her face is probably, her fingers and face are all red, full of
she just pops those in her mouth,
Yeah, as she should. I think that's awesome. That's a natural probiotic, I would say, right?
It
Straight
is,
from the earth into your body.
Yeah, so she loves that. I mean, none of them ever come inside that she picks,
Yeah.
Now let's say something from other people. It's just, you're just gorgeous.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. And that's so good. I had no idea that you had a green thumb.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, I can't even keep my front flower pots alive. I caught my mother the other day over my house pruning my flowers because she was like, you have to pick off the dead flowers. And I'm like, you know what, Mom? Good thing we're a block away from each other because you obviously are keeping up with my flower pots. Thank you, Mother.
Well, I will say it does take time.
I think, is there still hope for me to learn how to maintain?
There is. There definitely is.
Great.
Definitely is.
Great. I'm leading into it now. I learned how to spray weeds. And that was interesting.
We can have maybe a few tips off air or something of what to do there. So
that sounds good.
But sometimes it's a little more work than what you want it to be.
Yes, I think that. I think it's a new set of house chores that I haven't done before. So, Marc, you mentioned family office services.
Yes.
What does that look like in your world?
So as I mentioned before, we actually have this kind of transition between wealth management and family office services. Wealth management would be what most people think of, full financial planning, investment strategies. But as your financial wealth continues to build and grow, we need to look at additional strategies, I guess, as we look at that. So additional risk mitigation, family governance, multi-generational planning. And so the best way I can describe it is, what is a family office? If you think of some of the wealthy families we have in this country, the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, they have their own investment people, their own attorneys, accountants on staff helping those families. A multifamily office, which is what we are, comes alongside those families that have significant wealth. Maybe not as much as those family offices have, but they still need to be provided or facilitated those types of services, and that's what we provide as well. The best way we can kind of delineate where that looks like is I look at wealth management as being somewhere up to about 5 to 7 million in assets under management. Family office is 20 million and above. Transitional clients are going from that $7 million to $20 million range. And that's where it's really important and imperative to bring in those additional risk mitigation and other strategies as we transition them into family office type services. That also a lot of times brings about other types of investing outside of paper assets. So when we think of paper assets, stocks, bonds, things like that, they're great. We utilize all those in our portfolios. But one of the things that you have to recognize is the government tells us where they want us to invest our money. How do we know that? Because they give us tax breaks when we invest there. So we know that we need energy in this country. We know we want places for people to live. we know the government wants businesses, so we can hire people, so they can hire people, so people have a place to work.
Sure.
All of those have different tax breaks and tax structures that we want to utilize. For instance, if you go and invest into real estate as an investment,
right,
most people recognize that if invested in real estate, there's a couple of great tax benefits you get from that. You get depreciation on the building, which is written off against your ordinary income. So you potentially could have a real estate investment. Let's say it's paying you $50,000 or $100,000 a year, and if your depreciation covers that, you don't pay any taxes on that income. What's something else? When we look at,
I didn't know that, by the way.
So when you sell real estate, and so I'll back up for a second. When we look at how significant wealth has been built in this country, it's typically through one or two ways, either through real estate or through having a business.
Yes.
And the one strategy I just mentioned about real estate is a powerful tool. Here's even a more powerful tool, is that if I sell my real estate and I want to go into a different, maybe a larger purchase, if I do it properly, I can do so without paying any taxes through a 1031 exchange. And so as I do that, I can do it again and again and again and never pay taxes on that. So that wealth of value continues to grow and grow and build. I never have to pay taxes on that. That is a very powerful tool for those that have the ability and desire to want to invest into real estate. Oil and gas is another thing. We need energy in this country. There are ways to invest where you can write off most of your income from a year based on what you put into an oil and gas investment. So I
didn't know that.
So if you're in like the 37% tax bracket, I'm going to call it 40% because it makes the math easy in my head.
Right.
So
please do. Yes.
If I'm in that tax bracket
Right.
and I put $100,000 into an oil and gas investment, guess what? Now, instead of paying $40,000 in taxes, I might only pay $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 in taxes on that same $100,000. But now I have a full $100,000 investment into this drilling program.
Right.
Now, please recognize each of these have their own sets of risks.
Sure.
But that's the beautiful thing about this, is that the risks look different on each of these different types of investments. And so if you're trying to mitigate risk, you can do it. We diversify risk amongst paper assets, but then you can also diversify risk amongst what we call these super asset classes as well. Now, here's a powerful thing. Think about this. Let's take that $100,000 you got from your real estate investment as cash flow. You didn't pay any tax on it. Now you take that $100,000 and put it into oil and gas. You get another write-off. They're going to pay you $34,000 back to you. You now have just created money and instead of having to pay taxes, they pay you back now because of how you structured those different types of investments. Now, I'm not saying...
Is that something you guys help with? Because that's amazing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's what... I mean, typically, again, when we talk about these super asset classes, you typically are going to have a transitional or family office client, but it's just the power of what the government has you do. And again, I truly want to stress, there are risks into those investments. So we want to try to minimize those or mitigate those risks, but we want to take advantage of the power that the government gives us for those tax write-offs. So that's a key piece, because I do think it's important. I think a lot of people probably would feel this way, that it's not only our right, but almost our responsibility to pay the least amount of tax as possible. And I will tell you, we've heard stories in the past where these very wealthy individuals have only paid an average of 12% or 14% in taxes. These are the strategies that they use to do that.
Sure.
And so it's important for those clients to recognize the power of these. And so our goal is to walk through these strategies with our clients, and then for them to decide if they want to do it or not. I hate for someone ever to come to me and say, "Why didn't you tell me about this? I would have loved to have done that." So we'll explain it to them, walk through the different consequences of that decision, and let them decide if it might be a good investment for them or not. So
I really like that. I honestly am learning a lot today, because I didn't know that was even a strategy in the industry. So
now, I mean, I will tell you, we love our bread and butter foundational type of clients. So if you're out there, you have
that's me. I'm your bread and butter foundational client.
We love all of our clients.
Yes.
And so if you're coming in here, you're retiring and you have a $1.5 or $2 million rollover, we love having you as a client. We're going to set you up, walk through all those planning things, make sure we have a great diversified portfolio for you.
Yes.
So that's an important foundational piece of what we do.
Right.
But we recognize there are some underserved areas out there. And this kind of transitional phase into the beginning of family office is one that's very underserved. Mm-hmm. There are family offices out there that will, if you have $300 million, we'll take you as a client. But for that client that has 20 or 30 million that needs those family office services, it's difficult to find someone to help them.
Right.
It really is. It sounds crazy, but it is.
Believe you, definitely.
Yeah.
It's interesting. As the foundation, we work with all different firms, all different levels, and I definitely believe you that it is hard to find.
Yeah.
So tell me something. We were talking beforehand, and so I kind of want to let our audience in on this, our listeners, that you used to do stand-up comedy. I can hear it in your voice. I feel like you would be a 10 out of 10 to go see. Can you tell us, how did this start? How old were you? And I think that's your moonlighting business. That's your second side hustle over there, Marc.
Well, I'm going to stick with what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It started out really as a dare by somebody. There was a comedy class that somebody signed me up for because they thought I would be good, but they didn't tell me about it. So when they did, I thought, well, I'll go try this. And so I went, and I think it was Ray Combs had a comedy club, used to have a comedy club downtown, was putting this on. So we went and had this comedy class. And I learned a lot from it.
Did you really? I'm sure you did.
And so then...
Well, you're very eloquent.
Oh, well, thanks.
I will say that, and I think you could get people's attention. So, okay, keep going. Sorry.
Well, it kind of led from what they knew about me was my past, where I had been in some lead roles in some musicals, been on stage, and so I was very comfortable with that, and so that I'm going to stick his name in there. So I have to admit, I've always thought about wanting to do that.
Sure.
So then I did that class, got to do some, I'll say, gigs as some open mic nights and some stand-up comedy. And so it went on probably for a couple of years where I did that. And then I kind of just, as I started progressing my career and our family started, we started having our baby, I thought, okay, I need to get out of this because it's not something to make money. It's something I enjoy doing, but it's time to back away from that. But there may be some VHS tape somewhere floating around of me doing
Oh my goodness, I kind of love
routine.
this. Do your kids watch those? I bet they do. Come on.
I'm not sure I've ever showed it to them.
Oh my goodness, you have to.
And now I don't have a now it's just DVDs,
they
right?
have to get one. They have to get one. You can still buy one.
I'm not even sure where it's at now.
You can convert them too. You can convert them. They have that. So I'm 100% I'm going to send the link to somebody in your family so that they convert those for you.
It was I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier. It is what's funny in front of 300 or 400 people is not the same thing that's funny if you're just telling a joke to a person.
Right.
That's the biggest thing you have to recognize. And you have to kind of change how you view comedy and make those adjustments into your routine. So that was the biggest thing.
Well, I'm an easy audience person because I laugh at everything. Everything's a joke,
That's right.
I have a follow-up question to that. Do you remember the first time, or did you get paid? What was the first time you got paid, maybe to tell a joke?
I think I got a $5 bill out of
Okay.
that. So that was my total pay for the night.
Yes. That's
$5 bill.
Incredible.
And I did not pay taxes on that.
Yeah.
So if we can edit that out.
Yeah. We can take it. We can.
No, it was definitely not a money making
business.
It was more just a passion, right?
So Marc, let's talk about those foundational bread and butter clients that we were discussing earlier.
Right.
So how do they get started? How does a young person get started when they call Harvest Financial?
Yeah. So, usually there's a life change going on. So an inheritance, or somebody's been doing the investing themselves. And it's different for everybody, but they reach a dollar figure that makes them nervous.
Right.
And so it's they don't want to risk messing it up. So a lot of times they'll reach out to us and say, hey, can you provide some assistance here? Can you come alongside us and help us out? And so that's usually how that starts.
Yeah.
We get a lot of clients through referrals as well.
I'm sure.
So, I worked with this person, I worked with this, and they recommend us to them as well. So we're very thankful for that as well. Mm-hmm. And so as those clients come in, we recognize that we're looking for those long-term relationships. So our minimum, we have minimum account sizes of around $500,000, right? So you may be coming in to the firm and we're looking for a long-term process for you here as well. We're going to put that planning together. We're going to look at a long-term strategy for you as well, and then put into play. And that all comes before the investment side of it. And then we're going to put an investment strategy into place to help you reach those goals as well. So I think that's very pivotal for any client that we have, that if you're looking to put your time in, save into your 401k, maybe save some additional assets outside. How do we even structure those assets to get you benefits as well? We talked about tax strategies earlier.
Yeah.
But, for these clients, there are tax strategies we can bring in as well that are very key. Mm-hmm. So one of those might be, as we look at these different tax environments, so I might have an IRA, I might have a taxable account as well, a brokerage account, a trust account.
Right.
I might have a Roth IRA. All of those have different tax foundations, and we can utilize those together in how they're designed for the benefit of the client. So for instance, let's say if someone walks out the door, they have their $1.5 million rollover IRA. They might have $700,000 outside of their IRA in a brokerage account. Mm-hmm. How can we use tax strategies there? Well, what we can do is utilize the different tax environments of each of those accounts and get them their cash flow to them, but maybe save them $1,500 or $2,500 a year in taxes because of how we structure the cash flow. And that's huge.
That's huge.
And so we love being able to do that because I think the tax planning is something. Now, we don't do tax returns.
Okay, yeah.
But accountants typically don't do tax planning either.
Right.
So
they really don't.
No.
I do find that. I always say, why aren't more people saying open a DAF?
Yeah.
Or, donate appreciated assets or, you do.
Yes.
But it's rare that I work with CPAs that, they're just trying to get the job done.
Right.
And now you've paid, $200K to the government. And why do we do that? When you could have incorporated some philanthropy.
Yeah. So we love that opportunity to bring those tax strategies in because those savings then they can use and keep for their family or can be used for philanthropy or other areas. And so who's not getting it? The government.
Right.
And because it wasn't theirs to begin with. So we don't want them to have that. So that always excites me when we can able to do that. The investment piece is going to do well. I think we do a good job of that. We do an excellent job of that, and that's going to be there as well. But when we can bring in those other tax strategies, other things, that gets, and not just me. I mean, other people here, our other advisors as well, Joy and Monica and Gay. I mean, we love the ability to do that, and especially when the client recognizes the value and sees the value of that gives us joy, I guess, for the job that we're doing as well.
Right. So and I always say to people, like for strategies like that, just to kind of echo what you're saying, why would you let the government choose where those dollars are going when you can choose strategically where those dollars are going?
Right.
You do have a choice and a say on what you want to support. And I know I'm passionate about what I support and want to help fund.
And I think one other thing, too, that's fairly unique about what we do as well for these clients, for all of our clients, is that most firms will utilize some sort of investment vehicle when they invest money for their clients. So mutual funds, exchange traded funds, something like that. Those have additional fees with them. I'm not saying that those aren't valuable in certain situations, but we predominantly use a lot of individual securities as well. So saving taxes and saving fees are important for us as well. So when we build our portfolios, it's individual stocks. When we're buying fixed income, it's individual bonds. And we will utilize some of those mutual funds or ETFs in more eclectic type asset classes, but the majority are going to be in those. So if we can save taxes and save fees, all that is remaining with the client, and just to add that value for them as well.
It's a huge added value.
Yeah.
I have to say, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today on the What Gives podcast.
Thanks for having me.
coming on.
It was great.
To learn more about how to expand your philanthropy, please reach out to the Northern Cincinnati Foundation. For more episodes, please subscribe to What Gives.